What's up and welcome back to the Kinda Funny Gamescast. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes and I'm joined by the new face of video games, Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Good afternoon, Tim.
The master of hype, Snowbike Mike.
Hey, yo, Tim, thanks for having me on today.
One of the coolest dudes in video games, Greg Miller.
Hello, Timothy.
And the Nitro Rifle himself, Andy Cortez.
Great afternoon.
A 5-man crew. A fun one for the Gamescast. Not
Must
too
be a
often,
big
but
review.
it's always good. Mike,
Whoa.
I know that this was the goal, but my lord, I've never seen someone with whiter teeth than you. Good lord.
You hear that, Andy? That's my boy Tim letting me know.
Holy shit.
It's
Stick that in your
paid off.
yellow fucking teeth.
Like, good lord.
Just want everybody to know that's toothpaste from Italy. That's a whole lot of just like super alcoholic, I don't know, dentine
Super
ice.
acidic
Yeah.
type of thing.
Then you
pH levels real
you
bad
did
on
like
that.
3 levels of whitening when you were supposed to
Yeah,
be
I
like,
did.
no, I don't know.
Yeah, I did.
You said
Yeah.
it hurt. You said it was bad.
Again,
me thanks, Tim.
The problem I have with Mike is that, you know, he won't listen to us when we ask him to wear glasses to help his vision.
Yeah.
But he'll listen to any TikTok algorithm to tell him, like, hey, just order this shit, spend $70 on it, and it'll come in from Russia and just rub it on your teeth.
Change your life.
But the day that he revealed this news to us, he was like, oh, I'm burning my enamel off. Yeah, it hurts.
It hurts.
It's sensitive.
You're a special,
Why is your
special
seat
boy,
so
Mike.
high, Mike?
Beauty
Come
hurts.
down, goddammit.
Beauty hurts.
Come down.
What do you mean? We're in line. You and I, we're in line. We're in line.
Line.
Just two average height people sitting next to each
Just
other right
average,
there.
two average
High and
type
above
people.
average guys.
I love this. Of course, we have assembled the dream team to talk about video games because video games are cool, everybody. And this is the Kind of Funny Gamescast where we get together each and every week to talk about how cool they can be. Of course, you can get it on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames or roosterteeth.com as a video. But if you want it as a podcast, search your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny Gamescast. We'll be right there for you. Whole bunch of great reviews of games throughout the year already available there. And of course, throughout the rest of the year, we're going to be hitting all the major reviews for all the major games coming out, prediction topics, a whole bunch of cool things. So definitely go subscribe to that, show some love. If you want to show extra love, patreon.com/kindoffunny is where you want to go. Just like our Patreon producers, Delaney Twining and Tripod Plus Plus. Thanks to their support, they won't need to listen to the ads for Rocket Money later. But for everyone else, you get that. And guess what? If you're on Patreon, you can watch live as we record it. You also get a whole bunch of bonus shows like Kind of Feudy. About to record one of those after we do this. Earlier today, we recorded a shit list where we what we do, Bless?
We talked about the top 10 restaurants in video games.
Yeah, think about it.
Think about it.
Think about it.
Think about it.
Was it a big hit? Did you guys enjoy yourselves a lot?
We enjoyed ourselves.
It was a fun time.
Can you give us two really quick off the list?
Cluckenbell was on
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Oh, Cluckenbell's
Yeah.
gotta be.
Yeah,
on.
as it
yeah,
should be.
That's a
Now,
that's a top.
Is
10.
it way lower than you'd expect it to be? Yes.
I don't know. Go to Patreon.com.
The answer is yes.
Kind of funny to find out.
Give me one more.
I don't even know if I could, honestly.
Pokemon.
Okay.
There's a restaurant in a Fallout somewhere. Yeah. There's a restaurant, I think, in a Skyrim. No, it's not in
Diner
Skyrim.
Dash?
No,
Was the
Witcher.
Diner Dash diner in it?
Diner Dash was not on
So
it.
these are restaurants I'd want to eat in?
Just top 10 restaurants in video games.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The fun thing about the shit list, Greg,
Yeah.
is we don't look at the list before we talk about
No,
it.
I've
you know?
been on the show.
So we just kind of like, there's a prompt, Bless finds a list, and then we just go into it, and then we try to guess what's on the list, what's on the order of the list, and then we really need to, at the end of the day, decide, is the list a shit list, or is the list the shit? So for those of you that don't know, that is
good.
the
That's
premise.
good.
Yeah,
Good.
Which I don't think we did for this last list. I think we got to the end of it and we're just like, we're so flabbergasted.
We didn't. I don't think that it deserved. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
But there are dozens of episodes of the shit list that you can go get right now on patreon.com/kindoffunny. But hey, enough about all that stuff. Well, actually, one last little thing I want to tell you. You can use our Epic creator code KindaFunny on all Epic Game Store purchases. And even if you're getting the free stuff, there's been a lot of free deals recently on the Epic Game Store. Use our code KindaFunny, and it helps us out at no extra cost to you. Let's get right into it. We're a quarter through 2023. Q1, as they say. Dunzo. Over. And it might be the best Q1 video games have ever had.
Absolutely not.
Am I too bold
Look at
to
these
say
bold
this?
Where were you last year?
But I don't know. I guess last year was pretty good.
Last year's Q1 was incredible.
I mean, this year,
I don't
a
remember what
lot of
happened.
remakes, but I mean, Jesus
Horizon.
Christ, man. Like, I feel like we're already at a point where our top 10 lists, like, I feel like I already have half a list, and we're only one Q into the 4Q year. What do you think,
3
Greg?
more queues to go.
There's 3 more queues to go.
3 more
That's what I
queues
think
to
it's
go,
all about.
everybody.
A lot of queues to happen. Then we're going to queue up on our queue to talk about our queues here in a second.
Capital Q's.
Capital
I mean, plus,
queue.
give me the.
Is it fucked up that Q always has to be followed by a U, or is that just me?
Crazy. Think about that.
Like in the alphabet, just in words. 'Cause
In a
now that I'm
word.
thinking
It's
of words,
like-
like
it's
quiet.
like-
yeah, that's QU.
I'll stop you right there because you're making a fool out of yourself. If there's a letter after a
You
Q,
have
it's
to
going to
do
be
it.
a
You
U.
have
I
to
will
do it.
stop
What
you
about
right
Quebec?
there.
Quintessential.
Quill.
You're not going to get me. Yeah.
Question.
Let us know in the comments below. Keyword.
Cisco had to make up his own thing.
You're right. You're right.
Questlove.
Quinceañera.
You?
Bless. You're the challenge for you is you're saying last year's better than this year. Q1.
Q1, yeah. I think
Yeah?
certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anything, I would say
What are the things popping into your head
For
as
last
a
year?
refresher for people?
Elden
Horizon.
fucking ring.
Horizon, Elden Ring,
okay,
Sifu, Pokemon Legends Arceus, Dying Light 2, not PSVR 2. Yeah, I feel like that handful already is already topping this
What was
year
that
for what we
visceral
got.
reaction for Dying Light 2, Mike?
It's fine.
Really?
I mean, I don't know that
game.
it's automatic. I think Elden Ring is cheating.
Mike, I remember you having a
Fine.
fun time with Dying
It's
Light.
a fine game. Here's the deal.
Let us
no
talk
one's
to you
saying
about
game
Rock
here.
City.
Elevate the setting. I'm so bored of Eastern Europe. It's dreary. It's down. Everything is just brown all the time. Like, let's get
They're
some
Eastern
fun in
European
our lives.
devs. They don't play American games. God,
well, you know
sick
what?
of America.
Send those devs to Hawaii, okay? Put me out somewhere
No, it's
tropical
just
and
Dead
fun.
Island again.
Send them
Dead
out
Island
there.
1, Dead Island
That's what I
Riptide.
need. That's
Well,
what
I mean, what's the argument for Q1 this year?
Well, I mean, the topic of the show right now is
Tots.
game of the year so far, like looking at Q1. But again, I know a lot of these are remakes, but I think that some of them are remade to the point that they feel like such fresh experiences. But we're talking Dead Space, we're talking Metroid Prime Remastered, we're talking Resident Evil 4 remake. Like those 3 alone, I'm like, those are pretty damn banger. You add Hi-Fi Rush to this, surprise out of nowhere Xbox game that's up in the considerations. That's pretty damn good.
That's a good call. That's a good
Surprise
call.
Tango Gameworks game. Let's give that team a shout out right there. Coming from The Evil Within, and of course, Ghostwire
Ghostwire
Tokyo.
Oh, yeah, they're coming
It's like,
hot off
damn.
that. They're coming hot off
Yeah,
that.
coming hot
banger.
off of that. And out of nowhere, bang, hitting you with Hi-Fi Rush. Shout out to that team. Shout
Yeah.
out.
Let's see if it moved Xbox consoles. Oh,
No, we're down.
No, that's
Down,
still
we're
down. You're down a bit.
You gotta check tomorrow. It comes out tomorrow. You gotta check tomorrow.
Well, but there's so much to talk about. But are you happy with Q1 this
I'm
year?
happy. No, this
Oh,
is this is
okay.
me talking shit at Q1 this year. I think it's more so the idea that this is the best Q1 that we've had in a while. I look back at last year and I'm like, no, that was a Q1. If anything, I'd say I'm more excited for Q2 and the games that we're about to get, right? The idea of Jedi Survivor, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Street Fighter, the next one, right? Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 16. Like Q2 this year actually might be the best Q2 we've ever gotten. Like I think there's more of an argument there.
Yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
if anything, half one of this year, Qs 1 and 2 this year. Ooh.
Good cues.
The great Qs as a whole.
Mind your P's and Q's, you know what I'm saying?
That's what everybody says, Greg. Greg, how's gaming been for you, Q1? You're a dad now. This is your second Q1 as a dad. All right?
First
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
First time.
It's been a lot like it was last year. That's been great.
Brand new father.
Yeah, bitch was a year and a half old. No, it's been I think a fantastic Q1 for little Greggy over here. Are you kidding me? You got a WWE game in there. You got a Dead Space in there. You got Wild Hearts in there. These are games I have really been enjoying, really been appreciating. I would toss Before Your Eyes in there as well, of course. You know, I know a game that's older and been on other platforms, but was new to me and was the PlayStation VR 2 version, which I thought was more immersive than the Netflix one I went and kicked the tires on after the fact. It's been a great Q1. I think, it's interesting is, as visceral a reaction you got from Blessing being offended by your slander of Q1 2022. It'd be interesting to go back and compare other, I really do feel like it's an old adage that doesn't make much sense, but we talk about it all the time with the original Dying Light, right? Where that was a game that came out and found a audience and a spot on the calendar that most people weren't in. They weren't putting out January, February, March Q1 things. You weren't getting bangers, and that was a game that came out that again was solid. Not the best thing since sliced bread or anything, but since it was standing alone in that field, it was like holy shit, everybody's playing it. Whereas now, I feel like we've just been on a tear of every month
no
at
end.
least, if not every week or every other week. There's something you need to be playing. There's something that needs to be consumed right now to be part of the conversation. And sometimes I know I overheard you guys talking about it earlier, right? Like it'll be something maybe like Hogwarts Legacy or Wild Hearts that kind of seems to have this big moment and go away, right? But it's because there's something else that's about to happen. Like the staying power is what's so hard and why we're seeing games like Rumbleverse not be able to catch on, be closed down, Knockout City not be able to catch on, close down because there isn't a quiet period anymore. There really isn't a time to get invested in something that isn't the fucking best thing. And even if it is the fucking best thing, you're going to be onto something soon enough.
Yeah.
It's different.
Q1's hot right now, Tim.
Yeah, Mike's
Q1's been
what's your
hot.
Q1 been?
Not, like this Q1 has been great, but like Q1 in general for video games is now the new thing, right? Like holiday season, Q1's second. Q1's hot. Everybody wants to release in Q1. Q1 for me has been a really good time. I mean, the surprise release of Hi-Fi Rush, I think, got everybody excited, having a really fun time with that hack and slash rhythm-based game. And, you know, I can't catch a beat, but I can have a good time with it, right? And I really loved that art style. I loved the music to that game. I thought that was something really, really special. And, of course, I am the Xbox guy on the panel, so I do have to beat the drum for Age of Empires 2. Right, and what that team did to bring over a beloved RTS, one of the GOATs in the RTS genre, put it on console and make it feel so right on controller. I mean, that's something really, really special, and it just continues to add on to what we're seeing in Q1. Like brought up Hogwarts, of course, massive game, right? I know Andy really, really loved Wild Hearts. There is a wide plethora of games that you could get lost in, and I've had a really good time. And of course, I'll talk a little bit later on about Crime Boss Rockay City and how it's stolen
You
my
better
heart.
not.
But we'll talk about that.
You're
later.
not allowed to come out and be like, Dying Light 2. It'd be like Rockay City, though. That's fucking up.
Let me tell you about
That's
the
his man eater from this year.
Man, y'all remember Maneater? What a great game that was.
That was his top 10.
What a special game, Andy. They put the shark in Shark RPG.
Andy, what Q1 for you? I know we've talked a lot about most of the games here, but how you feeling about it?
I think there's one sort of not so hidden gem that a lot of people have been kind of playing more and more, and that's Dredge. If y'all don't know what Dredge
Will you
is,
please pitch me on this? Because I look at it. I looked at the trailer, but I had the sound off. I think I was walking. What's the dog's name? That's not Portillo.
Cody?
Cole. Cody. Cody. I was walking Cole, and I think I watched it there because so many people were tagging me. Greg, you'd love this. You'd love this. And I looked. I'm like, I don't really feel like playing a fishing game right now.
So Dredge has a gorgeous little art style. I think it's $24.99 on Steam. I believe it's also on.
It's everywhere. I think. Right?
Is it everywhere? Yeah, it looks like it's everywhere. It on its surface seems like a normal little fishing sim, and it's almost similar to Animal Crossing, where they give you a boat and they're like, "Hey, we'll let you kind of fish and sell the fish back, and you'll meet a bunch of NPCs." And there's bones on Loner right now, or this boat. Did I say bone?
Bones. These
This
bones
boat
are
is
on
a-
Loner,
it's
but I'm
on Lo-
coming
it's-
back for the bones.
It's a Loner right now, and eventually you go out and keep on doing these little small jobs, but then stuff starts to get more and more eerie, and things don't quite be what they seem, and it essentially starts to turn into, I guess, to spoil alert, like they're kind of showing you right here in this trailer, it starts to get kind of horrific in moments, and it essentially becomes a Lovecraftian
that's what I
horror
got the
game.
vibe.
But it so far, like of what I've played, I've only played it for about like 20 minutes, just because I kind of wanted to feel out how it was and whether it'd be good enough to stream or not. It seems to be one that, I mean, right now it's like getting 10 out of 10s on a lot of different websites. I think it's in the current like highly recommended bracket on Steam. It seems like it's a game that you're gonna need to check out if you really want to have like a super serious game of the year type list. It's one of the ones that you're gonna want to definitely dive into before the year ends.
See, I look at it, I just go, I should finish Moonglow Bay.
I was just going to say, this is Moonglow
That's
Bay
happy
with a twist, yeah.
Moonglow Bay happier. Well, I mean, they're pretty, you know
don't
what I
want
mean?
scary stuff?
With a
Your
twist.
partner, remember, disappears. The whole town stops fishing. You have to go fish. That's not a twist for you.
Whoa.
And I haven't finished the game, but I assure you that guy's not dead or girl's not dead. You know?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm stoked to check out Dredge. I want to keep on playing it. I want to go and exactly see how scary it gets. That's one thing I am worried about. Like, how horrifying does this get? But as somebody who played Dead Space Remake, I'm a new person. All right.
Wow.
And Dead Space Remake is one of those
So
games
proud
that will definitely be in my top 10 by the end of the year. It's a contender, everybody.
Hey.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's
up with
start talking about these contenders, right? As of right now, what is your game of the year? Bless.
Ooh.
Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah.
Hi-Fi Rush is not even close. Yeah, it's pretty easy. That's it, for me. That game was just such a strong surprise. It was a surprise that came from a studio that I did not expect that from, and then also I think on every single level they try to hit, right? Like art style, animation, story, gameplay. It all hit in varying degrees of excellent. Of course, there are places where I think they could improve and get better, but I think from a broad perspective, they hit everything at a pretty excellent level where that had me impressed, right? Playing through that game, fell in love with the characters, fell in love with the story. I thought the rhythm combat was very fun, very engaging, especially for a genre that I think oftentimes alienates its players. Like I think back to games like BPM, Bullets Per Minute, or even Metal Hellsinger that came out last fall, and there are plenty of people that I hear talk about how, yeah, I just don't have rhythm. Yeah, like that. These games just don't work for me because I'm not able to keep up with the beat. Hi-Fi Rush, I think, helped bridge that gap quite a bit by adding features and adding in a combat style that feels way more approachable than usually this kind of game is. There's that. There's the fact that, like, combat, when you are in the flow of it, just feels so alive and fun and doesn't let up. And for like anytime I wasn't fighting in this game, I was like, I can't wait for the next combat sequence. And that is not a thing I say often in action games, right? Like the combat really has to hit for me to be like, nah, throw me some more bad guys. Like I just want to constantly fight all the time. I think it hit on that level. I think the boss fights were fantastic. I still think back to it was like a few levels before the end of the game where there's a boss transformation in a cutscene that I'm like, yo, I can't believe what I'm looking at right now. Like I had to save the clip on my Xbox and rewatch it over and over again because it was just that dope in action. There's that. There's the references. There's the inspirations it takes from different animations and different video games. And all in all, for me, Hi-Fi Rush was just a surprise that was super joyful to play all the way through. And I think that for me, this is easily the game that I would say I have a pure love for more than anything else that's come out this year so far.
What about you, Mike?
I'm right there with him. Hi-Fi Rush. Everything Blessing said. We have a new console mascot easily with Chai and, of course, 808. Like, this was a ton of fun. This is a hot game that everyone should play this year. It's on Game Pass, which is another mega win for Xbox and those teams over there. Like, this was just a ton of fun to play, and I am that person. I can't catch the beat, and it gave me the accessibility to be able to catch the beat and learn to catch the beat, and I had a ton of fun with that. So, yeah, Hi-Fi Rush.
I saw even today they put out a new patch that like has even more different options for people to be able to play. Greg Miller, what about you?
I would say Before Your Eyes. PlayStation VR 2. Like I said, a game that has been out a while. You could play it on your webcam on PC. You could play it on Netflix via your phone there.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's, of course, the game controlled by blinking. No controls outside of that, right? And so for PlayStation, I mean, there is an option to play traditional, but like it's meant to be played that way. And so for PlayStation VR 2, of course, being locked in the headset, having nothing else to look at, having to go through the story here of a soul crossing the river Styx for all intents and purposes, right? I was amazed by, first off, the creativity of it. And then the narrative of it really caught me off guard and really blew me away and devastated me and made me weep into Blessing's headset, which I'm still sorry about.
I repaid the favor.
I did, yeah, you did use mine then to play it on your own.
Real tears of the kingdom.
Just a brilliant game, you know what I mean, and one that I shouldn't have slept on as long as I slept on. I did myself a disservice at that, but I did, of course, then get to play it this year on PlayStation VR 2. And for me, because I have gone back and played it on phone, I think that VR is the definitive way to play it. Just being completely locked in there and losing yourself to the story and the narrative and really feeling like you are the character, the boy here as you play through.
Yeah, I got to play it through the first time this last week, and I had such a good time with it. And I'm not going to talk about it yet, but like I was caught off guard, as Greg mentioned, right, by just how I think tender and personal the story is. And I was expecting something that was going to be along the lines of a Gone Home or what you expect from a narrative game, right? Like a What Remains of Edith Finch, that kind of game. And I wasn't expecting it to hit as hard as it did. Like once I realized what's happening, once you realize what's going on, and once you really take in and get to the latter parts of the story, it really goes for it in terms of some of its subject matter and reveals, and it's really cool. Like especially before the fact that you play it just by blinking and the way it manages all that stuff and the way it kind of brings it all in and really makes this like a really good cohesive piece of, I would even just say art, right? Like it is a fantastic video game that I like stand in line with Greg and Janet in terms of if you have PSVR 2, you got to play Before Your Eyes. Like that is on the
I stand by
list.
it's still the only must buy on PlayStation VR 2. Everything else I think you either recommend based on your preferences. Do you like driving sims? Then yeah, go do GT. Well, have you not played Moss before? Okay, then you should play that. Whereas Before Your Eyes is like, oh, get it. Oh, you've played it before? I don't care. Get it again and play it in this different experience.
How long is it?
Not long.
No, it's like an hour and a half.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
Yeah. And so I think, obviously that can be a work against it for some people, but for me, it's exactly what I want out of that. I've talked a lot about PlayStation VR 2 and VR in general. And my belief that so many things right now still feel like I'm at a Dave & Buster's. They feel like I'm there playing an arcade game that I could walk away from at any point in time because of running out of quarters, or there's something else to go do, or I want to move on to the next arcade-like experience, whereas this is a start to finish, you're going to play and you're going to go. And, for me, what I go back to is that I like being surprised. I don't think every video game is predictable. Ah, good job, Andy.
Surprise.
That every game is predictable, but I did stop in one very specific part in the game, and I was talking to Jen over dinner about it or whatever, and she was like, "Hey, is this game gonna devastate you and make you cry?" I'm like, no, I don't think so, because I just stopped here and I think what's gonna happen here, and I'll probably make this choice and I'll go one of two ways and blah blah blah, and it was totally not that, and it ended up just devastating me, right? But not for the reasons I expected it to devastate me. I think that's powerful. I think that's cool. I like being caught off guard about it. It is very much not only in the emotional section remind me of Gone Home, but also in the go play it knowing as little as you can. If you haven't had it spoiled yet, go play it, even if that means you're just gonna play it on your Netflix app.
It's another one that I would also say, once I finished the game, I was like, this feels almost tailored for Greg Miller.
Sure.
Right? Like in the way that I played the first hour of God of War Ragnarok. It came into the office and I was like, yeah, you played it yet? Like, this shit is for you. Before your eyes, like once I finished it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, like this is gonna hit. Like depending on just what your life experience is, right, and what you've been through, right? Like I think this has the capacity to hit more than others, but I think it's gonna hit for everybody, right? In terms of if you're just open to this kind of narrative game, it is for sure a powerful one.
And again, the blinking being the way to advance it, sometimes that happens, against your will, right? You don't mean to blink, but you blink and you advance the scene. You're blinking through memories of this character's life, your life. And so it was that thing of, even after I finished it and knew everything, I wanted to go back and rehear those conversations I accidentally blinked through, and I see what they were going to say and what was going to happen.
One thing I do hold against the game is I played most of the game on Friday at the studio, logged off because we had our team meeting that we were doing, and then once I got home the next day, I booted up on my PlayStation and I couldn't find the save, and I was like, oh shit, I guess my cloud save didn't send over, didn't upload to the cloud or didn't download to my home PS5. And so I was like, I guess I'll just wait until Monday to play at work. I come to work, boot up the game, and my save's gone. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, did my home save overwrite my work save? Like, is this a cloud save thing? And then I looked it up and asked people on Twitter, and they're like, no. Like, people have seen this issue before and before your eyes, and there's Reddit threads of people that have dealt with the save issues. And so I lost a save, and I was like, that's fine. Like, I was upset, but I was like, I'll just watch the rest on YouTube. And I boot up the video. I had 4 minutes left in the game. I just had 4 minutes left that I needed to see through, but it was fine. And
in the chat over here for the Trogs, people watching live on patreon.com/kindafunny, Cameron Kennedy says, I blink a lot. Seems like it would be a disadvantage. Of course, you can turn that off and play a more traditional way. However, I think it really speaks to the narrative, because again, you start the game and you've died. You're in your boat. You're here to reflect on your life all the way from birth to death, right? All through all these years. And so I think it really does play of you're being this person. You're role playing as this person, and so you want to stay in these often sweet nice memories, right? So it is that thing of, don't blink, and you blink and you move on. Or I would occasionally, you blink too early, miss out on a conversation.
And I did the exact same thing where I would accidentally blink because I'm not thinking about it. I'm like, shit, I was listening to that. I was into that. Now it's gone.
Yeah. So what's the game like? Is it more of an actual interactive movie, or is there gameplay to it?
It's more of an actual interactive movie, I would say. So it's not every blink advances. You'll get to very specific places where you blink, and that'll end the scene or move on to the next memory. In the same breath, as you saw a little bit in the gameplay there, it's eye tracking with the PlayStation VR. So you are painting or choosing something, or playing piano. There's gameplay elements that way, but it is you're on rails. It's not like you can do stuff that influences it, but you're still going to the same destination.
Do you see this Bless ending up as a contender at the end of the year?
No, you didn't hit 10 hard enough. Show them how to
you
do
gotta hit it harder.
Contender.
There it is. See?
I mean, I think for some people, right? Obviously for Greg, yes. For me, I don't know if it's going to be in my top 10. I think part of that is because I view it more as an old game. It's a game that's been out on the other platforms, because it's coming to PSVR specifically this year. It's that, and then also this year is just so stacked when I look down the future of, is this going to be one when Tears of the Kingdom and Spider-Man and other games come out, is it going to still be able to stick in there? Possibly, but I don't know for me if it's going to end up in that top 10.
If I need to throw something new out, I would say Forspoken.
Really?
Oh, fuck.
Okay. Look at it, Greg. You had to look at his face.
Got your asses!
Andy Cortez, what about you?
This is a weird one because I don't think anything's like a clear runaway winner yet. I know I probably just need to play Resident Evil 4, which I have been enjoying of what I did play. But then I realized like, I'm going to save that for Halloween because there's always like something spooky to play in Halloween, and it's like, all the games are way too spooky. But this game's like just enough action and just enough fun, and I totally get it. And I remember playing Resident Evil 4 back in the day, and it is worthy of, I think, all of the praise that it has been getting, obviously. This is going to be a weird one. I'm going to say Destiny. Not that Lightfall is what I'm even considering here. Not that the Lightfall expansion is it, but just the fact that Lightfall was able to get me back in a major way, where I have been playing through not only Lightfall, but all of the other expansions. And it is, I feel like I'm seeing something new all of the time because there's so much content to go through. And it is always a treat. And it's just, you're just clicking heads and ripping them to shreds, and it's fun or whatever. But I am just.
Are you globetrotting?
You're universe trotting.
Are you headshot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am, and it is really, really impressive the amount of quality poured into these worlds and these environments that you get to explore. I think again, a lot of people are gonna like hate on this because I don't think Lightfall was exactly what the hardcore Destiny fans wanted, because it really didn't satisfy a whole lot of their needs and what they wanted for the story and answers for questions that they've been asking for a long time. If anything, I think it just introduced more questions. But getting into the world, having these cool boss fights, having these dungeons, having a lot of fun missions to go through, cool new abilities. The game, I'm just so impressed by it. And I'm so impressed that like it got me back in that sort of way. I was not expecting it. Anytime a Destiny trailer has come out, I'm always the one tweeting like, maybe this is the one I finally get back in on. I can't believe it actually got me back in because it's just that damn good looking and that damn fun to play.
Yeah.
So can I ask an interesting question? I think it's to go back down the panel in a way, right? Is like, you're like, oh, Q1, no far and away winner, yada, yada, yada. I think it's a rare exception like in Elden Ring but even then people are like, well, what about God of War? Does anybody think their game of the year right now will be their game of the year?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, me neither.
Probably not. No.
Hi-Fi Rush will be towards the top 5, I bet.
Sure.
I mean, I think that's something special for everybody. I think we'll be in the top 5 conversation.
I didn't say top 5 if you notice.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Game of the year.
Well, it's just like
And as
Destiny's not
usual-
making his top 5.
That was the fucking
That's
question.
getting booted, you know what I mean? What a boring campaign that was. Don't get me started on that. That was unfortunate.
Which one is this?
The Lightfall campaign, I think that was a big miss. That was not
Are you
fun
raid ready, Mike?
to play. I am raid ready. I'm happy to report. I think that the experiences that I've had in Destiny, what I saw and experienced in that campaign was really, really boring, right? Like there was no awesome, unique settings. There was some cool settings, but like it felt like you saw the same setting over and over again. It was, hey, you're learning a new skill. We're going to take it from you. We're going to give it back to you. And like 4 out of the 6 missions essentially were the same. Hey, you're going to go kill the same 40 Vex over and over again doing that. And I really wish that they elevated that. I thought it would have been a lot cooler than it was. And that was unfortunate for me.
Sounds unfortunate.
Yeah.
You know what
Like
else
it
is
says.
unfortunate? There's people out there that have to see ads, but you could go to patreon.com/kindafunny and not see them. But for everyone else, here they are. Shout out to Rocket Money for sponsoring this episode. We all love gobbling up content, and we have an understanding of what subscriptions we use. Or do we? Do you know how much your subscriptions really cost? Most Americans think they spend around $80 a month on subscriptions when the actual total is closer to $200. That's right. You out there. You could be wasting hundreds of dollars each month on subscriptions you don't even know about. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending and it helps you lower your bills all in one place. Rocket Money has saved some of us here at Kinda Funny a ton of money, and it can help you too. Stop throwing away your money. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/kindafunny. That's rocketmoney.com/kindafunny. ROCKETMONEY.com/kindafunny. Plus, what were you going to ask?
I was gonna ask, what's your game of the year so far?
Thank you for asking. It's hard because I feel like what is a game of the year is a conversation we have a lot. And with where we're at right now, most of the things that brought me the most joy have been remakes or remasters or whatever it is, and that can kind of be a little weird. So I think my answer is layered a bit, where I look at the remakes, and if I'm being completely honest with my heart and my mind and who I am, the answer is Metroid Prime Remastered. And
That's a good point. I forgot about that.
it's a really good game. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's pretty damn good. And the reason that I would say that it is my choice right now is that you look at things like we've talked about this a lot, but Resident Evil 2 remake, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater remake, like, there's just been amazing remakes recently that not only make the games feel and look like you remember them, but enhance that even in some ways, where it's like, wow, we're playing some of the definitive versions of some of the best games ever made. And I just feel so lucky that we're in this era that is the case. And playing Dead Space is a perfect example of that. Like, I cannot give enough props to Dead Space for being as damn good as it is. Like, I think it is the best version of Dead Space, a game that I already loved. And Resident Evil 4, same thing so far. I'm still not done with it, but like, it's just unbelievable that the game's as good as it is. Metroid Prime is interesting because it's technically not a remake. It's straight up just it's a remaster or whatever. And because of that, I feel like, oh, okay, I wouldn't put it on the list because I feel like a remake's one thing, a remaster's another, right? But playing this and then playing Metroid Fusion, which is just straight up the original Game Boy Advance game, it just made me realize, like, man, Metroid Prime Remastered is so much more of a remake, and it feels so fresh compared to Metroid Fusion, which is just straight up the same game. The way that it has the dual stick controls, it changes Metroid Prime. Like, it is a new game that I played through, and that new game is better than the old game, in my opinion. And like, I can't believe that that's the case, but it is. And Metroid Prime is fucking phenomenal. It is a 10 out of 10 video game, and being able to play it again now with this new style, and it feels so fresh, a game that I've beat countless times, I am so impressed by it. Having said all that, I really got to give a shout out to Hi-Fi Rush. Like, I feel like I do think Metroid Prime is a better game, but
That's kind of where I'm at too, where I feel like Metroid Prime is the best old game, where Hi-Fi Rush is the best new game. And it's hard to quantify that, because if I was to say the best time I had playing a video game this year, right, or what is the best video game I played this year, technically, it would have to be Metroid Prime Remastered.
Dark Souls 3.
Well, I've not gotten around to that one yet. But yeah, I would say Metroid Prime Remastered. But if we're talking about Game of the Year list at the end of the year, maybe I'll feel a different way now, or maybe I'll feel a different way later. But I don't know if I would put it up there, just because it's not new, right? Like, it's a remaster, but do we count that? It's weird.
Yeah, it's complicated. And again, I personally, with where I'm at now, there's no chance that at the end of the year, Dead Space, RE4, or Metroid Prime, like, some combination of those aren't going to be on my list, because I think that they are, in 2023, some of the best games have to offer. We have so many other games to come out, so I don't know exactly how the list is all going to shake out. But Hi-Fi Rush, like, I think it lacks the Game of the Year quality to me that I'm like, oh, that's the number one and that's the thing. But it is such a strong 8. Like, it is such a great first step, and I can't wait for a sequel. And I think that the sequel could potentially be, like, that much better. I'm just so happy that we were introduced to a brand new IP, and, like, add on the Shadow Drop, add on the Game Pass, add on all this, add on the fact that it's Xbox, and I want to see them get the W's. This is a W. It's a capital W, man. Like, Hi-Fi Rush is beginning to end a just damn good time. And it's what I look for in video games, is having fun. And that game is fun to play, fun to look at, fun to listen to. Like, purely fun, the most fun I've had this year in games. So I think that it's going to end pretty damn high on my list at the end of the day.
I agree. It's probably going to be pretty high for me. I didn't really realize how stacked the rest of the year was until me, Mike, and Tim had that question in Games Daily earlier of name your hype levels between Lies of P, Diablo 3, Tears of the Kingdom, Final Fantasy 16. Well, there's one.
No, Street Fighter wasn't.
Blinking on something else.
Tears of the Kingdom?
Oh, yeah.
Zelda?
Yeah.
Oh, did I
Zelda
have
was in there. He said that.
Oh, did you say that?
there was. I think there was like 5 in total.
There was
And I
five,
just-
and there's even more than that too.
Jedi?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and exactly,
There's
and
even more.
And just looking at those 5, it's like that. Let's just count those as top 10s already, right? Like, I don't see a world where those aren't in my top 10.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that they haven't even, like, if you say, oh, the majority of your top 10 list hasn't even come out yet, and it's April. That's fucking wild to me.
It is, right? But even then, it's like there's already some games that I think are the contenders. Contender.
Contender.
I don't got.
Contender.
I just watch what Andy does.
Contender.
I don't do it either.
Fingers?
I think it is the visualization. that helps
Contender.
it.
Okay.
Contender.
But listen to how he says 10.
Contender.
It's like chicken tender.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a really great.
Chicken
Like,
tender.
I want to talk to
Spent
you.
a lot
I
of
want to
time with
dive
this boy.
deeper into this boy's mind. A rare appearance here on the Gamescast.
Yeah,
You're
of course.
obviously on the XCast side,
Uh-huh.
repping all that
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
which usually means you're talking about the big first-party Xbox
Yes,
titles, and you get to get into some of the things. I mean, I guess this is still a big first-party title, but like Age of Empires, games that we don't traditionally talk about on Gamescast.
Yeah.
What are some games you want to shine a light on
Oh,
from
thanks.
Q1 at least?
I wrote down a couple that I want to definitely shine the light on that we experienced and had a good time with. And I have 3 written down. Of course, let's shout out the OG, GoldenEye. Of course, having the GoldenEye re-release come out to Xbox and have the twin sticks with that and how that felt with 2 sticks in a modern era felt really, really good. Was it missing online multiplayer? Of course. But being able to play James Bond GoldenEye on an Xbox console in 2023, a special moment for sure. Then after that, Sons of the Forest. I love a good survival game. I really loved the Forest and what that game
Give the pitch on what this
became.
is.
The Sons of the Forest and the Forest franchise is you crash land on a helicopter or plane onto an island. And that island has some freaky deaky stuff going on it, Greg. There's cannibals on the island. There's a goal. Of course, I'll give you the Forest 1 rundown. You got to find Timmy, your son.
Oh,
Timmy,
God, where'd
on
Timmy
the
go?
on the crash landing of the plane, Timmy is gone, and you got to go find Timmy. And of course, there's some freaky deaky stuff going on this island, and we don't know if Timmy's been abducted by the cannibals or maybe a mega corporation that's got some bad stuff going
God
on.
damn it.
And so your goal is, just like any survival game, to survive by building, crafting, and just
Oh, not
living
the turtle.
on this
Oh.
island, right? And so
Oh my God!
no!
I don't like this.
Sons of the Forest was the highly anticipated sequel for survival fans out there. Of course, it did launch content light. I think that was the biggest complaint that people had was
What was that there? What was that there? Was that a...
Swarm
That's
Beast?
a
Was that
lady with
Goro? Was Goro showering?
we're
there?
gonna talk about that. That could be a daughter of a family member, the Puffingtons that you're looking for. Maybe she turns out to be a friend where I hand her a shotgun and a pistol and she shoots
cool.
things.
I played this game, and Mike could be lying about any of this. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, so I really like these survival games, right? And the Forest was something I attached myself onto a long time ago, and I love what they've done. I think the biggest complaint that you'll hear from people was it was content light. It was promised to be the full release. Then the team quickly, right before the launch of it, said, actually, we're going in as a game preview, right? This is a game as early access. It won't be everything that you want and more, right? But if you give it time, these kind of games evolve over time, and it will grow and be better. But I love a good survival game, right? And that actually goes into the next one. I'm always on the hunt for the next big shooter, right? I'm burnt out on Fortnite, Apex, and Call of Duty. I'm looking for someone to break the mold on either the Team Arena shooter or the Battle Royale. Who's got that next big thing, Tim? And we got a glimpse of it with the finals. We got to do some early play tests with the finals, and I was really impressed with what we saw. There's some small tweaks, of course, that they'll improve upon. It was clearly some Battlefield devs, so you can feel it's a little bit looser on the gunplay side than a cool Call of Duty tightness, but it has Levolution, my favorite word. It has destructible environments. It has really unique and awesome maps that have played in the day and at night. And it is a really interesting concept of a game show where 4 teams of 3 get dropped into a map, and your goal is to go find vaults spread across the map. You go then stand at the vault, and it's the basic concept of a roaming hardpoint, right? You go to the vault, you stand there for 30 seconds, it unlocks the vault. Then you grab the money, you go over and cash it in at the ATM. You stand at that hardpoint, and it gets money in there, right? And so it was a really cool concept. I would like them to tighten up the gunplay and also maybe make some other game modes. But for what we saw out of this playtest, it gave me belief that, yes, the shooter genre can evolve. We can move past just battle royales or maybe the basic Team Arena that we've been stuck in for so long. And I'm not saying any of those are bad. I'm just saying there will be another one. There will be a next stepping stone, and we're going to get to that. And the final showed some really cool stuff, and that's what I'm excited for. So those are my 3 shout-outs.
Andy, did you play finals?
I played a little bit of it during the first preview. I will say during that first trailer, like I never saw anything in the game that looked anything like the first trailers or the trailers that we just saw, where there are insane amounts of destruction. And if there were, then your game's gonna come screaming to a halt down to 20 frames per second. Not a game that I don't think had enough time with to fully get the language of. I played it with, I believe, Mike and our friend Kevin Ace X, and it just didn't really do a whole lot for me. I wasn't able to hop into the second test period that they had.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one that I'm looking forward to that I really, really enjoyed the beta period of that we had during, I think, Steam Next Fest was Dark and Darker. Dark and Darker is one that I cannot wait for like the full version 1 release of. It's a kind of a looter extraction type game similar to
Escape from Tarkov.
Escape from Tarkov, yeah, or like the Division modes.
Yep.
Dark Zone.
But this is you and 2 other friends, and it's medieval style, and it's all kind of close quarter catacombs, dungeons, and you are walking through trying to beat enemies in the world. And sometimes the other people are real other players that are there trying to also escape with loot that they can then take back when you finally fully escape and you save that loot to then level up and kind of have better stuff for the next run. But it's such an interesting concept because just on the surface and just based on previews, I'm like, this game just looks kind of basic and it just seems like a very, very early form of this early access game. But there's something about that intimate close quarters nature that makes it so intense, knowing that like because you can't sprint in this game. There isn't like crazy fast action. It's all about like kind of spacing and movement, and then you hear footsteps and you're like, oh, there's players in the other room. Oh shit. And you see them and you close the door and you're like, oh fuck. And then like you could maybe trap them in with other little like ghouls that then start spawning or whatever. I think it just kind of has like that perfect sort of sauce. And it was one of those that I think we were a little bit, are we going to be into this? Let's try it out. Let's try it out on stream. And me, Mike, and Nick played it and had a fucking blast. And then we continued to play it, and then the beta eventually went offline. But that's one that I'm super stoked to actually have. They went offline to eventually bring the version 1 out, which will think be out in a couple of weeks or something like that. But Dark and Darker is what it's called, and it's pretty awesome so far, what we've played.
Yeah, chat's blowing up over there, of course, if you're watching on live. They're saying a lot of it might not be coming out anytime soon. They're saying stolen assets, so we'll have to look into that one and see if that's real or not, which is too bad.
They should have just bought the assets from the stores like everyone does.
I'll pitch on one more that I was really blown away with. And Blessing, this is right up your alley because it's all about social deduction. I know you love those games.
I do.
Deceive Inc. is another really fun social deduction game. It is a first-person shooter. The goal is simple, to socially deduct who is the other bad guy's team. And so, it is 3 teams of 3.
Over here right now.
Awesome, fun maps, very lively and colorful. Your threesome will then go off into the map and try to find these, labs and layers that have a special briefcase, and then you'll extract out of there. But your goal is to kind of take the look of security guards, service workers all around the map and slowly get into higher security areas where then you will finally get the final payoff and run away. But your goal is to find the other team. And it's really
pretty
who
cool.
can act the best like an NPC.
Pretty awesome.
And get called out.
It's like, what's that one game where you play as a sniper and then there's somebody at the party?
Yeah,
like,
we were talking
hanging
about
out?
that.
And so this one's really fun because it is cool of like the idea of the teams, of course, are going for the end goal. But what it really turns into is, can we find the other team and shoot and spray at them and have an awesome gunfight? And I really liked what I saw out of this one. This is a fun time and a really good party game where 9 people come together, 3 teams of 3, and it is fun. You'll figure out the subtle cues of like no NPC can jump, so the moment you see someone start jumping around or like
you're like,
really
they're over there,
sprinting around, you'll know.
That's awesome. It's
And
like-
it's fun. It's cool.
Like that game we played with Achievement Hunter a while back. It's like the
Spy
Gary's
Party?
mod type stuff?
yeah, some Gary. I forgot Prop Hunt or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
it's similar to Prop Hunt, yeah. But I think in this one it's really cool because you see a lot of the same similar NPCs kind of walking around, and a lot of them will just stop, and you're like, that could be somebody scanning.
Well, this
a
is the whole thing
treasure.
of Assassin's Creed multiplayer, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
You'd go out and play that, and like you'd be dressed as them, and then you'd have to watch for the other person who was not doing the right thing.
Yeah, it was pretty neat from what we played. Definitely one that I was having some major PC issues whenever we tried PC gaming. Am I right?
The worst.
It never works, dude.
Hey, well, let's just waste a bunch of money and time. PC gaming in a nutshell. You know
Greg
what I mean?
Miller.
Hey, buddy. Hey.
What are some of the games you want to shine a little bit of a light on?
that are coming still?
No. That Q1.
Oh, that haven't. That we've already. I mean,
Just smaller
nobody talked
titles.
about Octopath Traveler 2. I've
for
been
it.
enjoying that quite a bit, of course. You know, I mean, it's more Octopath, which is great. That art style everybody loves. The stories are more interconnected, which I've enjoyed. But mainly the stories are as good as they were the first time around. I feel like I found something in all the characters so far to connect with and be into their story for, right? I feel like Octopath Traveler 1, there were certain people on my squad that I really liked their story. This one, but I'm sorry, there were, and then there were people I just didn't care about and I kind of forgot their thing. This one I've enjoyed. Oswald in particular, as you see it, the scholar, his story's pretty cool of like getting framed for the murder of his family and being put in jail and, you know, having to wear a little, basically the Man in the Iron Mask kind of stuff where he hasn't talked in years and stuff coming out. I've been enjoying myself. It's very similar to Octopath Traveler 1 with me, where I've put 30 some hours in now because it was my game up in Canada or whatever, but I haven't beaten it and obviously been pulled back into the other review stuff here in the grind. So will I ever roll credits on Octopath Traveler 2? Probably not, but the stories are great. The visuals are great. I think the combat is always fantastic. I love it. It's for some reason, it's a rare turn-based strategy or turn-based RPG that gets me, JRPG, and this one gets me every time.
When I was in LA, real quick, I went to the Academy Museum, so I got to see a whole bunch of cool like movie props and stuff, including the Man in the Iron Mask that Leonardo DiCaprio wore.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, Bless.
No,
Continue.
I was gonna say this is one that
Very important.
I had downloaded it. I was gonna play it over the weekend and then I fell asleep. But like, I've heard so many people in the last week talk about Octopath Traveler 2 and with such like great language, right? Like Micah Hine was talking about the battle system being one of the best JRPG battle systems that he's experienced. I saw Jason Schreier put up an article on, I think, Medium about him basically saying that for him it's the Elden Ring of JRPGs, just in the fact that, you know, there was a side quest that he went on where like a thing happened which led him to another thing, and like just by happenstance, right? Not by the actual quest markers telling him where to go, but just by intuition, he was able to piece together two things, and like it just worked the way that he expected to work, and that blew his mind in the way that those really cool scenarios can happen in video games. And so Octopath Traveler 2 is one that I really want to try. Just for me, as somebody who really liked Live Alive and didn't really get into the first Octopath Traveler, Octopath Traveler 2 seems to have a lot of good things that people are saying about it.
Yeah. Bless, is there any game you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I have a handful. I have a couple of games that I want to shout out, even though they're not in the game of the year conversation, but they're pretty good games. And then I have a couple other games I want to shout out for very different reasons. But I do want to shout out Wolong Fallen Dynasty, a game that I think we said was like okay, but the combat was so fun, right? Like the combat was the main attachment that I had to that game, and that was the thing that allowed me to see that game through. That game was fun, from the boss fights to the enemy encounters to the weapons to the loot system. Like I had such a fun time with the pure gameplay loop of the game. It was a game that I wanted a little bit more from, just in terms of the world and the story and the writing and the performances and like even like the environment design. Everything around the combat, I wish I got a little bit more from, but it's one that I would say that if you're a fan of Souls games or if you're a fan of action games in general, don't sleep on it. Like I think it is one that is worth playing, especially because I believe, Mike, it's on Game Pass,
It is
right?
on Game Pass Plus.
Yeah, so
Day
if you have
one.
Game Pass, I couldn't recommend it more. Wolong Fallen Dynasty is a very fun time. And then another one I want to shout out is this game Storyteller. It's one that I think had a trailer like a year or so ago at one of the
It did. It turned our
presentations.
heads, yeah.
Yeah, and it's this really cool game. So it's a puzzle game where each puzzle has a prompt that it'll give you, and your goal as the player is to figure out how to tell the story that it's asking from you. So like the one where like that just came up there was Heartbreak is Healed. And so you'll have a group of characters and then a group of like actions, right? Where it's, all right, I want to heal this person's heartbreak. Okay, first I have to make them fall in love. So I'm going to take this guy named Harry and this girl named Sally. I'm going to make them fall in love by
When Harry Met Sally.
When Harry Met Sally, yeah. I'm going to make them get married in this panel, and then in the next panel, I am going to kill Sally. I'm going to fucking bury her in the ground. And then in the third panel, I'm going to add Harry and Hermione, and they're going to fall in love. I don't think that's canonical, but you get the idea, right? It is me telling these stories in order to solve these puzzles. And Roger was actually the one that put me on. He came back one weekend after playing and was like, yo, the Storyteller is actually really good. And so I played it over the day and I had such a good time with it. Like my only complaint really is that the game is not long enough. I played and beat this thing in like an hour, and I really wanted more from it, especially because the buildup is so steady in a way where I would have sworn there was way more game here. But I finished it and I was like, oh, that's it? Like, oh man, you guys can give me more here. And it especially took me back because the UI of the game isn't the best when you're figuring out like, oh, what's the next puzzle I want to solve. And so I would finish a puzzle, and then like I think I would click left to then like fast forward me to the next thing. I realized later on that I had finished the last puzzles of the game before, like, way before I was supposed to. And so, like, I was having such a fun time in the final puzzles, being like, wow, this difficulty ramp up is insane. Like, how do I do this thing? And I solve it, and I'm like, yo, I can't wait to see what else is here. And I'm like, oh shit, all right, that was the last one. Let me go back and do it. And I realized that there wasn't any more difficulty after that. And so I just wanted more from it from that regard. But I think it is one that's worth picking up for the price. It's on the cheaper side. And if you like puzzles, then for sure, like it's one to pick up. The other thing I wanted to bring up, though, are the disappointments of Q1. Because
here, before we move on to that, I want to talk. We haven't talked on this one about Wild Hearts. I really enjoyed Wild Hearts. I had a great time with Wild Hearts. I got sidetracked by life, sadly, when review was happening and we were all playing it. But like, Wild Hearts was such a fun twist on the Monster Hunter thing. I think it removed a lot of the barriers of entry of Monster Hunter, a little bit of the minutia of it, and then that ability to create traps and objects on the fly. You know what I mean? When they introduced that in the beginning, I thought, what a weird gimmick. And then when I got like 2 or 3 more versions of it, right, where it went from just being a little thing to hop on to a wall I could construct to a giant hammer I could construct and set off as traps. I was like, oh shit, it's like Green Lantern's ring. Like, that is a cool thing, and that does separate it from this. And it's a really sad one of like being so jazzed to play more of that because so many of us were playing it at the time, but then getting called up to Canada, and by the time I came back, we had already moved on to other reviews and stuff. And I was like, I missed that window to get in there and really play it.
Yeah, the same thing happened with me where, like, even though I got to play, I'd say a lot more than you because I was still here playing. I was part of the that's when you kind of like hit me up. I was like, hey, can you be the lead reviewer on it? I had such a fun time with it. And then I think it was Wolong that kind of was already like, we got that code and it's like, all right, I have to play Wolong now. Yeah. So unfortunately, my time was cut short there, but that's definitely a game that I feel like I would have kept playing had I not gotten that early code for Wolong. I think it's absolutely worth it, and it's a fun freaking time.
Yeah.
Like that change up of those little magic building crates, and again, I had the same thoughts we talked about on that review that, man, this looks really gimmicky, and just give me the monster hunting. I don't care about this stupid box building shit. And it turns out that was like the missing piece that I didn't realize that I wanted until I had it. And having all these different contraptions you can make just made the whole experience a really, really fun time.
It's never too late. We got these streams every day. Let's get out there, do some Wild Hearts.
You know, I never played that one. I played like one tutorial.
Oh, you went on our
turned it on. Nope, I didn't play it. That was you guys.
Yeah,
oh, that's right. You mean Joe?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They added more of the I forget
kimono,
kimono.
The kimono and the building things, which I think are called like
Kakuri?
I wanted to say Kakariko, but that's the village in Zelda.
Yes.
But yeah, I think you're right. It might be Kakuri. Yeah. But yeah, they added more of those things, and so there's updates there.
Oh, really?
I actually had that in my like almost in my disappointment side, but more so just for the fact that we didn't play more of it.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a self-disappointment of, man, I wish we stuck with this.
In the review, Greg, I don't know if you watched it or not. You should watch. It's a great review.
I listened.
Great review. Would have rated it a lot higher if it wasn't ugly.
Yeah.
Like,
you're playing on PC.
It's true.
No, I was playing on console.
Damn it.
Problem. You started on PC though.
Well, yeah, and it
It was
got
so
worse.
ugly with the rain. The rain was so bad, you bounced. Yeah.
And then it got worse on console. Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those games that great character creator.
Yeah.
When we talk about going from that to Wolong and how awesome Koei Tecmo's character creator is, and how I wish more developers would do this, where they have one character creator that, like, hey, this is the Koei Tecmo character creator. Whatever games you want to use, utilize this tech. And it's awesome, and it's expansive. And now I'm playing EA PGA Road to the Masters. Like, god damn, this character creator is the worst thing I've ever used in my life. Like, awful.
I think it's the quickest I've ever like gotten in and then out of a character creator.
It is asinine how bad this character creator is, Tim. And I think you see them, and now we're talking about EA Sports. Sorry, I just have to talk about this. But they're like also talking about the other. I think a lot of it is, let's concentrate on the gear you can equip, because there's a lot of like customizable gear you can do in EA PGA Road to the Masters.
I bought a lot of gear.
Jesus Christ.
Because like Tim, you can like have a golf bag, you can change the color of the strap, you can change the color of the towel, but it's like, I want to make my dude look good, and instead of like 20 pre-made faces of which you cannot change the skin color. So if you find a dude that's like, oh, that kind of looks like me, but I need him to be whiter or darker skinned,
man.
you can't. It's
Jesus.
Dude, it is unbelievably bad. And the thing I was complaining about, it's like, I wish that EA could just make one character creator, use that for Madden,
Put it
use this for Road to the Masters, use this for NBA Live when you bring that back or whatever. It is just, it's a really, really bad character creator, and it bums me out that we've had such awesome experiences because we were spoiled with Wild Hearts and with Wolong's character creators that we came to this, and it's a disappointment, man.
Yeah, dang. Before we move on to the disappointments real quick, I want to give my shout out. I talked about this like 2 weeks ago, but since then, I've kept playing the shit out of Sifu Arenas. It is so good, and I just feel like it's just going to go under the radar because it is just kind of, oh yeah, it's a free DLC update, but it's like, man, like Sifu Arenas feels like a separate experience to the core game, and I was gushing about it a couple weeks ago, but now that I'm like way further in it, I cannot believe how much love's put into each mission, and just how fun, how much content there is, and like how great the presentation of it all is, and there's more to come. There's like, you unlock levels as you go, and there's like sections that are like coming soon, and I'm like, I'm getting more?
That's awesome.
I can't believe it, but the dedication to hey, we're just going to remake your favorite action movie scenes, but you get to just play through them. And like the creative ways they make them happen in some ways that are like legitimately like, oh yeah, this is straight out of the movie. And some of it's a bit more like, oh, this is the Sifu version of it. Just having such a great time. The only criticism I have is that in Sifu's core game, there's a lot of moving from like room to room, going through hallways in between the combat. This is just combat. My hands die after like playing for like 30 minutes. I'm like, I need a break. I need to like shake it out because you're just going, there's so many button presses and so much going on that like my hands are just getting tired. Like, you know,
dude, I streamed this for like an hour and I had to cut the stream after an hour because my hands just hurt. I was like, dude, what Sifu demands of you as a player. Yeah, if you're doing combat like back to back to back to back, your hands are just gonna cramp after a little bit. But it's such a fun time.
Yeah, I'm supremely impressed with this. Like, it honestly is probably my favorite like DLC to a game that feels like it both enhances the
My favorite fighting game
experience. There we go. But also does something like so new. Like it's Sifu, but it's not. It's like it is a different experience that you have to take moment by moment. Like I still haven't beat it, and it's literally because of my hands. But it's very special, and I think that like they're gonna do some. I get the vibe that whatever's coming down the line, like they're working on some fun stuff because this really does feel like that kind of dream case scenario where you're like, you're telling me Insomniac is making a Spider-Man game? What? And then it happens. It's like, oh, you're telling me there's going to be a DLC that is just you playing Sifu in scenarios from John Wick or The Matrix, and then they just do that thing. And I'm like, well, thank you. So go check out Sifu Arenas. If it's free if you have Sifu. Moving on to disappointments now, Bless. What do you got for me?
Yeah, so like when I think of Q1 this year, as much as I think of the games that I love, I think there are a handful of games that I was looking forward to that ended up disappointing me in one way or another. The first one being Forspoken, right? That came out back in January 24th, and I know Greg reviewed it, so Greg probably has way more to say. But that was one that as soon as I played
That's what I say.
as soon as I played the demo, I was like, oh no, I'm not feeling this. And I played a little bit of the game when we first got codes, and I was just like, this is not doing it for me, and I immediately bounced out. But that was the first one. Season A Letter to the Future is another one.
I was hoping you'd bring this one up. Yeah, right. We had all eyes on Season A Letter to the Future of like, what a cool concept. The world's ending. You have to go around. You have to document it, do all these different things. And got it. It's got a beautiful art, obviously. But get it in like those first few, like, not cutscenes, but where people are talking, it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, this VO ain't good. And, oh, this interface isn't good for how the dialogue's popping up. And you get the open world and it's really beautiful. But then when you start interacting with people, it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, like every time you interact with somebody, I feel like it's like that's when it really is like, I don't want to do this. Like you have a great idea here, and I just don't think you knock it out of the park.
And I think it's even more disappointing because the game has other moments of brilliance where you look at the art, you look at the trailer that's playing right now, and this game is as beautiful as it looks. The art style is gorgeous. The colors are gorgeous. Like they do such good things with environment and lighting and just the design in general. It all looks fantastic. And then there are also excellent moments of writing where it almost feels like I am listening to poetry, where they're one of the first things that you do in the game is you are talking to, I believe it's your mother, and you are going around the house and like bringing things to her where it's like, all right, like these are things that me as your daughter, I'm going to remember, like I'm going to carry on the memory of this thing, but that means that you as my mother are going to forget this. And going through that scene, I was like, oh, this is going to be special. This feels like something that's going to be special. And there are a handful of special moments like that throughout the game, but I think just as an overall, it doesn't come together. Just in terms of like keeping that stuff up in the VO, keeping that stuff up in terms of keeping the world interesting and keeping me engaged. After a while, I just was not interested in the world they presented here, and so yeah, for me that comes up as one that I wanted way more out of. Atomic Heart is another one that I thought was going to be such a slam dunk. I've been looking for something to fill in that gap between Wolfenstein 2 and maybe eventually Wolfenstein 3, or like any like I even just want
BioShock sort of.
BioShock, but I just want a dope ass first person shooter campaign because those are so few and far between nowadays. And Atomic Heart came through. It came in. We got the code in, and I started playing it. I played a couple hours, and immediately I was like, this is not doing it for me either. Just from the tone of it, the writing of it, I did not like a lot of the dialogue, and then also just in terms of game feel, I wasn't feeling that either. And so that's up there for me. And then another one is Horizon Call of the Mountain. That's one that I really wanted to be this is going to sell me on PSVR 2. This is going to be as good as Horizon is for console as this thing can be for PSVR 2. And it's fine. Like it's a beautiful game. It's a great climbing simulator, but
Great bow and arrow game.
But it's not one that I would say if you're a Horizon fan, you got to pick this up. And it's not one that I would say, hey, if you're looking for PSVR 2, you got to pick this up. Like there are even more games that are in the PSVR 2 catalog that I'll recommend way more before we get to Horizon Call of the Mountain. Something like Before Your Eyes or Gran Turismo. And so that's up there for me as well. And then Crime Boss Rocket City, I was hoping would be at least a little bit good.
Oh my God! Can I talk about Crime Boss Rocket City finally?
Is it a disappointment? Or
It's a disappointment.
Okay.
It's a major disappointment, Greg. Of course, if you've listened to the KindaFunny Xcast, we had a great rant about Crime Boss Rocket City last week, but I'll keep it short and simple on this one. It's a big disappointment. I mean, it is a game that has a bunch of actors that you know, right? Like, you think, oh man, Chuck Norris, that's crazy. Like, this is going to be a fun time. Danny Trejo's in it. That's insane. Why do they got Vanilla Ice? Like, what are they going to do here? And unfortunately, the game just is an amalgamation of so many different ideas come together. It is a business simulator. It has a stock market where you're selling illegal goods on the black market and you have to follow trends. It has a kind of gang where you recruit gang members and then you take over territories.
Mike, you're just talking about Yakuza, dude.
And then all of a sudden it wants to be Payday. It wants to have these big mega heist missions where it's just like Payday and Payday 2, where you scour the building, you really get into it with you and your friends because you can play this multiplayer, and you go in there and you bust a joint open and you steal a bunch. But unfortunately, what it turns into is just absolute mayhem. Every single mission is poorly put together, really bad design. It's a half-baked Payday, and that's the unfortunate part about it. And man, oh man, I'm playing this just for the memes and the laughs, but like I can't stop playing it for some reason because
Is
it's
it
also
delivering the memes and the laughs?
it is, and it's also a roguelike, just so you know, because that's hot right now, Andy Cortez, if you didn't know.
I didn't know that
Everybody
super
loves roguelites and roguelikes, so guess what? We got to make our video games like that. So technically, you're supposed to lose eventually and die, but I've
Mike
never
never
died
does.
because there's only, you go into these levels, it takes
A roguelite where you never die is terrible.
excruciatingly long load times. And let's mind you, it's not
I'm
super
gonna make
long,
a
but it's like
linear
it's a full-on 45-second load time to get into a bad
This is on
cutscene
PC,
that is
right?
phoned in. This is on PC.
Imagine what it's going to be
That
on
is
console when this drops on console.
phoned in by Chuck Norris that takes you another 45 seconds. Then you get out of that. You get dropped into a level that has about 7 enemies that you murder in just one shot each. And then it goes, great job. Mission complete. And you load out of that level to do it over and over again. It is a nightmare of a video game. It is crazy that people stood around a table and was like, let's do it. let's rock and roll with that. But we're here. We're here. And so, yeah,
But
this
you
one
can't
I'll never
stop
forget.
thinking about it.
I can't. I'm going to play it again tonight.
I fucking love you.
I
Mike.
can't stop, y'all.
All right, closing this out, Andy and Greg, do either of you have a disappointment so far that you want to talk about? Because honestly, I don't have anything that I would say. I'm like, oh man, I'm truly let down. Like Forspoken, I was so hopeful for, and immediately I was like, this isn't for me. But to say I'm disappointed, I was like,
I still think you'd be disappointed by that, right? Like I was disappointed by that with Forspoken. You know, Call of the Mountain for Bless's thing, but I would say PSVR 2 overall. Again, saw it coming. I've talked at length about I don't know what's going. This doesn't look good, but that doesn't stop the fact that it's out, and I don't care. I don't feel like I need to go play. My VR unit's been here since review. Like I haven't been like I gotta get it home. I gotta go do something. I've played everything I play here. But beyond that, Chia is another one that just came out, right? That Chia. Looked gorgeous. An indie PlayStation's getting behind. I'm always down for that. This fun island, this gliding like Zelda, possession of animals, all these different things, and it's fun. It's beautiful. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it just lacks that motivating force for me. Like I played it in one night. I shouldn't say I played it. I played it for one night. I have not gone back to it because other things have called my name. Whereas this was fun and it's pretty and there's a lot of good music numbers, but there's a lot of systems getting tossed in there where it's like, what is the identity of this game? What are you trying to do exactly? In terms of gameplay, not in terms of story. And it's just not something I'm motivated to go back to, and I doubt I ever will. And it's the same thing where it's like, I feel like the reviews came out and people were like, yeah, it's, okay, yeah. And like, Janet was more like, oh, okay. And it's like, you play it and you either, I think, go through and play it and enjoy yourself and never come back to it or beat it or don't, but I just don't see it being something we talk about at length from here on out.
I'm with Bless, with Forspoken and Atomic Heart as well. Every trailer we had seen leading up to Atomic Heart looked insane, and it just it's still a game that I had a decent amount of fun with, but I thought it was going to be like this is a contender, and
Sure.
I just don't feel like it
You didn't
was
say good there. You didn't say
contender.
There it is. Thank you.
There it is. It was apart from the tone and everything, it just it delivered some cool tech stuff that I don't think we've seen a whole lot in first person shooters. I love the way the looting is. I don't know if you've seen the way the looting is, Tim, but you have like this little like vacuum that sucks in loot from all the doors and cabinets around you. And you just kind of look around the room and all the cabinets open and all the shit flies towards you. It has like some really neat like visual stuff as well. I think the game is insanely gorgeous looking. And it looks like that next gen thing, which is why I was always saying like this game's going to run like garbage. And it ran super well, and all the NVIDIA stuff works super well on it. I just didn't feel like it was delivering on the story that I wanted.
Yeah. I love that you call me out for the vacuum loot stuff, because there's something, we never talked about this. I love that shit. There's something so satisfying about things flying at you. Ratchet and Clank, one of the reasons I love the franchise so much. It just feels good to get those bolts flying at you. And Onimusha, you guys hear me talk about Onimusha all the time. Onimusha, it's part of a mechanic where you need you have to hold circle and he like sucks shit into his gauntlet. Mm-hmm. It just feels good.
Yeah,
man. It feels damn
It's
good.
old God of War opening a chest and having like the
orbs come back
fly
at
at
you.
you.
Yeah.
That feels good.
Really good. Let us know what feels good for you, everybody. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you on the Xcast?
Of course, you can find me each and every week on the KindaFunny Xcast. I'm live streaming with Andy, Nick, and the team here each and every day, each and every weekday. And the fun time about the live stream stuff is we get to try a lot of these games that, we might skip in a conversation, right? Like us playing Deceive Inc., the finals. Like me and Andy get to play a lot of these fun games. I think that's the cool part about our KindaFunny streams is we might play a party game, we might play the newest, hottest release of Dead Space Remake, or we might dive deep into the Steam library and find out like what is going to be the next gem. And that's something special for me that I always want to share with the best friends. So yeah, thanks for having me.
I did request a code for Deceive Inc. for PS5, Greg.
There you
I
go.
saw that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And also let us know in the comments below what your contenders are. Yeah?
You fucking nailed
Get
it,
a little,
dude.
there you go, Andy.
Contender.
And also, what are your disappointments so far for Q1? Definitely interested in all of that. And get ready for Q2, baby. You want to be subscribed to the KindaFunny Gamescast feed, youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, twitch.tv/KindaFunnyGames. We're going to be playing. We're going to be talking. It's going to be a good-ass time for everybody involved. Until next time, I love you all. Goodbye.